Okay, so good morning, class. So this will be our last topic for numerical solutions. Okay, so numerical solutions in solving CA problems. Okay, so for last module we have the Fourier series. Okay, so under pa rin to ng curve fitting. Okay, so as you all know, last module, or I think module 9, we discussed the power series. So yung power series is meron siyang two subcategories. Meron siyang Taylor and Maclaurin. Okay? Then another series is solution for curve fitting is this one, the Fourier series. So ano ba yung Fourier series? So yung Fourier series is a way of representing a periodic function, so as a possibly infinite sum of a sine and a cosine functions. So si Joseph Fourier and si Jean Baptiste, okay, on 1768 to 1830 introduced the idea that any periodic function can be represented by a series of a sine and a cosine which are harmonically related. So for example, you have this Fourier series. So the Fourier series is given by f of x is equals to a sub 0 over 2 plus summation of a sub n cosine of nx plus b sub n sine of nx from n equals to 1 to infinity. Okay, so this will be our Fourier series. So expanding this term, you have this Fourier series expansion. Okay. So the basic definition of a Fourier series is a function f of x is said to have a period p. So meron siyang periodic function, and such that the f of x is equals to the f of x plus the period, di ba? As you all know, kapag may periodic yung function mo, let's say a sine or a cosine, after that period, the same pa rin yung value, di ba? That is periodic function, di ba? Then let us have the function f of x that has a period of 2 pi. Let's say you have a f of x that has a period of 2 pi. Okay, so in this case, it is enough to consider the behavior of the function on the interval to negative pi to pi, since this one, negative pi to pi, has a period, has a total length of 2 pi. Okay, so in this case, it is enough to consider the behavior of the function on the interval of negative pi to pi. Okay, so for the Fourier series, so we have the f of x is equals to a sub 0 over 2 plus the summation of n equals to 1 to positive infinity a sub n cosine nx plus b sub n sine of nx. Whereas, just like dun sa power series natin, di ba dun sa power series natin, kahit man Maclaurin yan or Taylor series, you need to solve for the constant term, di ba? Naalala nyo yung constant term, f0 over, f of a over n factorial, di ba? Ganun doon. So dito, sa Fourier series, you need to solve for the three constants. You have your a sub 0, you have your a sub n, and you have your b sub n. So in order for us to solve for the three constant terms, we have this formula. Okay, this one is the formula. So these are called the Fourier coefficients. Okay, these one are the Fourier coefficient. Fourier. I think Fourier yung basa dyan. So anyway, so that is the Fourier coefficients. So for the a sub 0, that is equals to 1 over pi. Okay, integral of f of x dx from negative pi to positive pi, or from your interval. Okay, so that is the value of your a sub 0. Okay, next one is your a sub n is equals to 1 over pi integral of negative pi to positive pi. That is equivalent of f of x cosine n x dx. That is your a sub n. And for your b sub n, that is 1 over pi integral of f of x sine nx dx from negative pi to pi, whereas you are integrating with respect to x. Okay, so all terms, let's say n is a constant. Okay, so this one, negative pi to pi, okay, kasi yun yung ating interval, negative pi to pi, that is our interval. Take note, that is our interval. Okay? Kaya negative pi to pi. Then this one, okay, sorry. This one is our 1 over pi. So this one, you have your 3 coefficients, Fourier coefficients, and masasolve mo na yung Fourier series expansion, Fourier series. So ganun din yung concept nito for the power series, the same sila. They are representing a function into to a series of infinite series. So ano lang to, parang curve fitting yung tinatawag. Okay? So ayan. So 'di ba, remember if we compare the power versus dun sa Fourier, okay? Yung power class is a polynomial function, 'di ba? Polynomial function yung uh, curve fitting niya, yung pang-represent niya ng function ng let's say e raised to x, 'di ba? Polynomial function 'yan. So whereas dito naman sa Fourier, sabi niya you can represent any function as a function as a sum of cosine x and sine x, or a sum of periodic functions. So periodic functions yung come up niya dito. So that is the difference between the two. Okay? Sige, let's try to solve for a problem. Okay, so let's say you have a Fourier series of the square for the square 2 pi periodic wave. So defined on the interval negative pi to pi. So let's say you have your function f of x is equals to 0 when your x is greater than or equal to negative pi, but less than or equal to 0, and f of x equals to 1 if your x is greater than 0 and less than or equal to 5. So this one is a square function or a piecewise function. Okay, this one is a piecewise function. Okay, so sabi niya we can transform this function into a Fourier series or into a periodic wave function. Okay, so parang pwede mo siyang i-transform to that. So paano gagawin yon? 'Di ba babalik tayo dito? So we just need to solve a sub 0, a sub n, and b sub n. Okay, so let's try to solve a sub 0 muna. A sub 0. Okay, so sabi sa a sub 0, that is 1 over pi integral of negative pi to pi f of x dx. So sinabi doon negative pi to pi. However, dito sa atin, magkaiba yung function from negative pi to pi. So meron tayong termination ng dalawa. Okay, meron tayong negative pi to 0 and 0 to pi. So if we use this formula, magka-come up yan dito. So a sub 0 is equals to 1 over pi, okay, integral of negative pi to 0, then yung function na 0 dx plus 1 over pi, the integral of 0 to pi, okay, 1 dx. Okay? So yan yung ating function for this one. However, since 0 to, maka-cancel na lang to. And what we have left is the second term. So 1 over pi integral of 0 to pi 1 dx. So you can now integrate 1 dx. 1 dx is just simply x, then substitute this one. So 1 over pi, then a value of x evaluated from 0 to pi. Okay, then 0 to pi, so substitute mo yung pi, FA minus FB minus FA, we have pi minus 0. Then you have 1 over pi there. So you now have a sub 0 is equals to 1. Okay, kaya naging 1 to. Okay, so next coefficients is we have your a sub n. How to solve for a sub n? You just need to solve a 1 over pi integral of negative pi to pi f of x cosine of nx dx. Okay, so ganun din dito. Hihiwalayin mo rin siya kasi this is a piecewise function. So hindi siya continuous function. Magkaiba sila ng function when given yung boundaries. So this one, same with this one, na-cancel yung 0. So ang natira na lang is 1 over pi integral of 0 to pi, integral from 0 to pi, then the function f of x cosine of nx dx. So 1 times cosine nx dx. Okay, what is the integral of cosine x dx or cosine nx dx. So as you all know, the integral of cosine is sine nx. Okay? Divided by the constant of nx. Okay? So parang sine of nx divided by n. This one. So sine nx divided by n, and evaluated mo siya from 0 to pi. So evaluate mo siya from 0 to pi. Okay? So paano ba natin to evaluate? So I think mas maganda if whiteboard. Open na ako ng whiteboard for this one para makita nyo lang. Okay. Wait. Ayan. So nakikita niyo yung whiteboard, class? This one?
Yes po, sir.
Sa right side. Okay. So, ayan. So what you have left now is 1 over pi sine of nx over n. Okay. Evaluated from 0 to pi. Okay. Yan. So ang gagawin natin, 1 over pi. Then substitute natin yung sine n pi over n. Tama? Minus sine of n times 0 over n. Okay? So that is equivalent to 1 over pi. Okay? Sine of n times 0 is 0. So sine 0 over n. So that is sine of n pi over n minus sine of 0 over n. So if you get your calculator, then set nyo as radian. Okay, set nyo as radian. Yung sine of 0 is always 0. Tama? Ang sine of 0 is always 0. Therefore, this is 0. Kahit ano pang ilagay mong value of n. Whereas yung n is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. Okay? So kahit anong lagay mo sa value of n, you will always arrive this one as 0. Okay, dito na lang tayo sa isa. Sine of n pi over n. Okay, try to substitute sine of, let's say n equals to 1. So sine, so ang gagawin nyo sa calculator nyo, sine of x pi over x. Okay, then calculate. Then let's try 1. So ang value is 0. Let's try 2. Value is 0. Let's try 3. Value is 0. So ibig sabihin, ang sine of, okay, this one. Ang sine of, ang sine of pi, next natin ang sine of 2 pi, okay, ang sine of 3 pi, okay, hanggang ganyan, hanggang pababa. Hindi kasi nagsusulat sa ilalim eh, this one. Yan. Is always 0. Okay, therefore, we can say that sine of n pi is always 0. Okay, therefore pala, this sine nx over n is always 0. This one. This is always 0. Okay, so therefore, you now have 1 over n pi times 0. You now have your a sub n is equals to 0. Therefore, your a sub n is equals to 0. Next, solve naman natin yung b sub n. Okay, b sub n. According to the formula for the Fourier coefficient for b sub n, that is equivalent to 1 over pi integral of f of x sine nx dx from negative pi to pi. So the same. Since this is a piecewise function, so mahati yung negative pi to pi na boundary. So 0 to pi and negative pi to 0 and 0 to pi. And negative pi to 0 is 0, therefore makakancel yon. So what you have left is 1 over pi integral of 0 to pi 1 of sine nx dx. Okay. So ano ba yung derivative na integral ng sine nx dx? Ang integral ng sine nx dx is cosine nx over n. Negative cosine nx over n. Okay? So since 1 to 1 lang yan. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so what you have left is this integral of sin nx dx. Okay, so we will now evaluate sa negative cosine nx over n from 0 to pi. Okay, so paano ba natin siya evaluate? Ganon din. So to evaluate cosine nx over n from 0 to pi is this one. So 1 over pi, baba tayo dito. So this one is 1 over pi. Okay. A negative cosine of n pi over n, tama? Minus of negative cosine of 0 over n. Okay? So yan yung natira. So 1 over pi, ano ba yung cosine 0? Okay. So ang ginawa niya dito, tinanggal niya na lang yung negative dito sa labas. Okay lang yun. So ganun na lang din yung gawin natin para the same. Okay, so tinanggal niya yung negative sa loob, nilagay niya na sa labas. This one. Then this one. Okay. So substitute mo, that is ano ba yung cosine 0? Okay, before we start dito, whereas yung n natin is 1, 2, 3 hanggang ayan. So ano ba yung value of 0? Cosine 0. Dito muna tayo sa isa. What is the value of cosine 0? The value of cosine 0 is 1. Tama ba? The value of cosine 0 is 1. So therefore, this will always 1 over n. Kung ano man yung n sa ilalim, kung n equals to 1, 1. Kung n equals to 1 half, n equals 3, 1/3. So therefore, this one is 1 over n. Okay, paano ba tong isa? Cosine of n pi. Okay, ang cosine of n pi, let's say cosine pi, let's say n equals to 1, cosine pi. N equals to 2, cosine 2 pi. N equals to 3, cosine 3 pi. N equals to 4, cosine 4 pi. Okay. So, try natin i-solve. Ano ba yung cosine of pi? Cosine of pi is negative 1. Okay. Cosine of 2 pi. Cosine of 2 pi is positive 1. Cosine of 3 pi is negative 1. Cosine of 4 pi is positive 1. So, as you can see, may pattern. Meron siyang negative 1, positive 1, negative 1, positive 1. So nakakita na kayo ng pattern na to, di ba? Dun sa power series natin. So pag nag-start siya ng negative 1, positive 1, negative 1, that is equivalent to negative 1 raised to n. Okay? That is equivalent to negative 1 raised to n. So let's say try natin. Negative 1 raised to 1, negative 1, negative 1 raised to 2, positive 1, negative 1 raised to 3, negative 1. So therefore, this is equivalent to negative 1 raised to n. Okay? So, ayan, meron na tayong pattern. So, pwede na natin siyang isulat dito. This one is negative 1 over pi. So, as you all know, cosine n pi is negative 1 raised to n divided by n minus yung cosine 0 over n, that is always 1 over n. Okay? So, this one is negative 1 over pi negative 1 raised to n over n minus 1 over n. So since they have the same denominator, you can add them. Okay? So therefore, that is equivalent to negative 1 over pi. Okay? Negative 1 raised to n minus 1. Okay? Divided by n. Okay? Then multiply natin yung negative 1 over pi. So if we multiply negative 1 over pi, you now have positive 1 minus negative 1 over n raised to n pi. So this will be our b sub n. Okay? So this will be our b sub n. So which is exactly the same as this one. 1 minus negative 1 raised to n over n pi. Okay? So, clear ba yon? So, mas maganda sa uluhin nyo na to. Kapag sine n pi, that is always 0. Cosine 0 is 1. Cosine n pi is always negative 1 raised to n. Okay, so much better if you try to memorize that one. Okay, so this one, so meron na tayong a sub 0, a sub n, and b sub n. You can now rewrite the function in the Fourier series. So a sub 0 over 2, which has 1/2 summation of what is our a sub n? 0. So wala tong a sub n natin. So mawawala yung term na to. Okay, this one, wala siyang term na to. So ang natirang term na lang is yung b sub n, which is b sub n sine of nx. So that is your b sub n sine of nx. So this will be our final answer. Okay? So yan. Ayan po. So this will be our, bakit hindi magsulat? Okay. So this will be our final answer. Yan. So next, open ko lang tong malaki. Discuss natin muna. Okay. So next natin is an even and odd function in the Fourier series. So what if you have your even and odd function? So an even and odd functions in the Fourier series expansion of an even function f of x with a period of 0 to 2 pi does not involve the terms with signs and has the form this one. Kapag even, this one is for even function. This one is for even function. So we where the Fourier series or the Fourier coefficients are given by the formula 2 pi, okay, 2 pi integral of 0 to pi f of x dx, 2 pi integral of f of x dx cosine nx dx. Okay? So ang mangyayari kasi kapag even function, ito, 'di ba ito yung original Fourier series natin. Pag even function, yung b sub n sine of nx will always give you 0. This one will always give you 0. Okay? Then you have your a sub 0 over 2. Okay? So ganun din yan dito. This will always give you 0. Okay, sorry. This will always, hindi pala always give you 0. This is the same to this one. Okay, kaya the same ito dito. Okay, so since they are the same, so magmumultiply yan ng time ng 2. So times 2, di ba? So since they are the same, kaya meron tayong 2 over pi dito. Kaya this one. Bakit may 2 over pi dito? So that is 2 over pi integral of 0 to pi f of x dx, and a sub n is equals to 2 over pi integral of 0 to pi f of x cosine nx dx. Diba naalala nyo kapag even function, the same kasi sila, diba? And they need to evaluate 0 to pi and magmumultiply ka ng times 2 sa labas. So kalahati ng periodic function mo kapag even. So that is for the even function. And for the add function naman, this one's for the add function. So the formula is f of x, yung mangyayari sa f of x natin is summation of n equals to 1 infinity b sub n sine nx. Okay? So this one is for add function, where the coefficients of your b sub n are equals to the 2 over pi integral of 0 to pi f of x sine nx dx. So that is your add function Fourier series. Okay? So paano ba malalaman if you have your add or your even function? So before that, this is the example of function that is add or an even function. So let's say you have your x squared, yan yung function mo, that is an even function. X cubed, that is an add function. Cosine x, that is an even function. Sine x, that is add function. Okay, absolute value of x, that is even function. 3x plus 2, a linear function that is neither even, neither add, nor add pala. or x plus x squared sine x, that is an odd function, or sine x plus cosine x, neither add nor add. Okay, so to determine whether the function is even or odd, so take the function and plug negative x in for x and then simplify. So if you end up to the same exact solution or exact function you started, that is an even function. So this one, if your f of negative x is equals to f of x, that is an even function. Okay, if you end up with the same exact opposite of what you started, which is in the form f of negative x is equals to negative f of x, then that is an add function. Okay, this one. So let's try a sample problem. Okay, so yung sample problem natin, let f of x be a 2 pi periodic function. Okay, so such that the f of x is equals to x squared. For x in the real of negative pi to pi, find the Fourier series for the parabolic wave. Okay, so kunwari, we have, hindi natin alam yung if f of x equals to x squared is even or odd. So paano malalaman yan? So you just need to plug in f of negative x. So ito yung f of x natin. Plug in mo yung f of negative x. That is equivalent to negative x squared, which is exactly x squared. So therefore, f of negative x is equals to what you started, f of x. So therefore, x squared is an even function. Okay, so going back to the even function, this one. Okay, so we need to solve for a sub 0 and a sub n. Okay, so we need to find a sub 0 and a sub n. Since this is a function, is an even, the coefficient p sub n is equals to 0. Okay, so solve muna natin yung a sub 0. A sub 0 is equals to 1 over pi integral of f of x dx from negative pi to pi. Okay, so substitute natin yung f of x, which is this one. So 1 over pi integral of x squared dx from negative pi to pi. So ang integral niyan, that is x cubed over 3 integral of evaluated from negative pi to pi. Okay? Okay? So that is pi cubed over 3 plus pi cubed over 3, that is 2 pi cubed over 3 multiplied by 1 over pi. You now have a sub 0 is equals to 2 pi squared over 3. Okay. So next natin is this one. So for a sub asan ba dito? For a sub n, ayan pala siya. 2 pi squared over 3. Ito pala yung solution niya, this one. So for a sub n, then for a sub n, you have 2 over pi integral of f of x cosine nx dx from 0 to pi. Okay? So from 0 to pi, cosine nx dx f of x. So substitute natin yung f of x. We now have 2 pi integral of pi 0 to pi x squared cosine nx dx. So this is a combination of algebraic function and a trigonometric function. So di ba, remember you have your Liate. Okay, Liate. So logarithmic, inverse, algebraic, trigonometric, and exponential. So this is a product of algebraic and trigonometric. Sino yung nauna? Si A. Okay, si A. So therefore, yung A natin, okay, if you remember integration by parts, okay, integration by parts, that is integral of u dv is equals to uv minus integral of v du. Okay? If you recall, that is integration by parts. So therefore, yung u natin, kung sino yung nauna, algebraic, that is x squared. Yung dv natin, that is cosine nx. Okay? So cosine nx dx. So taking du, that is 2x dx. Taking integral of cosine nx dx, that is sine nx over n. Okay, then substitute natin siya dito. This one. So therefore, that is, ito yung uv, that is x squared sine nx over n. This one is uv. Okay, evaluated from 0 to pi. Okay, this one is integral of b du. Evaluated from 0 to pi. So that is yung v natin is sin nx over n dx. And yung du natin is 2x dx. So this one. So 2x sin nx over n dx. Okay? So if we evaluate this one muna, ito evaluate natin to. That is equivalent to pi squared sine of n pi, this one, minus negative pi squared, okay, sine of negative n pi. Okay? So this one is factor out natin yung 2. You get negative 2 integral of x sine of nx dx from 0 to pi. That's 1. Then, since this is also a combination of Liate, algebraic, and a trigonometric function, we need to integrate this by parts again. Okay, so that's why we need to apply integration by parts twice. Okay, so solve muna natin yung labas, yung dito muna. This one is simplified as 2 pi squared sine n pi. Okay, finactor out na yung n dito sa labas. Kaya naging ano na siya. 2 over n pi, 2 pi squared sine n pi. Then, ito, this one, you need to solve for, again, solve mo siya as, solve mo siya as integration by parts ulit. So, negative 4 over n pi, integral of 0 to pi, x sine nx dx. Okay, therefore, Liate ulit, that is equivalent to, okay, solving for Liate, that is u is equals to x, dv is equals to sine nx dx, du is equals to dx, v is equals to negative cosine nx dx. Okay, this one, this is u dv. This one is your u, this one is your dv. Okay, ayan. So, you get negative 4 over n pi. Okay, negative 4 over n pi. Okay, wait. Okay, this one. Okay. Ayan, tama. So, nawala yung ito. Nawala to. Hindi ko pala nasabi. Ito nawala. Bakit nawala to? 'Di ba sinabi ko nga kanina, balik tayo dun sa whiteboard. Ang sign of n pi is always 0. 'Di ba? This one, sign of n pi is always give you 0. Okay, this one, sign of n pi is always give you 0. That is why this term will be cancelled. Okay, this one will be 0. Okay, and so what you have left is negative 4 over n pi. Okay, so baka nalito kayo bakit nawala siya. Okay, that is negative 4 over n pi, integral of x sine nx dx. Okay, therefore that is u is equals to x, dv is equals to sine nx dx. Integration by parts, du is equals to dx, v is equals to negative cosine x, nx over n. Okay, this one. This will be your u, this will be your dv. Okay, then therefore, integral of integration by parts, you now have uv, okay, uv minus integral of v du. Okay, so that is this one, negative negative times negative, you have your positive. Okay, then x cosine nx over n. So, pinactor out na yung n doon, kaya naging 4 over n squared dito. This one. Okay, then this one is evaluated from 0 to pi. That is pi cosine n pi minus integral of cosine nx dx, integral of 0 to pi. This one. Okay, na-cancel yung pi dito. Yung naka-factor out yung n dito. So, factor out natin yung n. You have your 4 over pi n squared. Okay. Then, what you have left is this one. Evaluation dito. That is negative x, negative pi cosine n pi over n. So taking negative out, that is pi cosine n pi over n. This one should be positive. Okay. So minus integral of 0 to pi cosine of nx dx. This one. Okay, so you can now easily solve for this integration. So masolve mo na integration na yan, that is equivalent to sine of nx over n evaluated from 0 to pi. Okay, so 4 over pi n squared, pi cosine n pi minus of sine n pi over n. Kasi yung pi to 0 is, yung 0 is mawawala, di ba? Sine 0 is always give you 0, di ba? So that is this one. Sine 0 over n is 0. Kaya natira is yung pi na lang. So that is why sine n pi over n. This one is cosine, pi cosine n pi. Okay? Sine n pi is equals to 0 and cosine n pi is equals to negative 1 raised to n. So ito nga sinabi ko, dapat sauluhin nyo to. Sine n pi is always give you 0 and cosine n pi always give you negative 1 raised to n for integer n. So we have this one. So 4 over pi n squared. Okay. Pi cosine n pi is negative 1 raised to n. Okay. This one is 0. Okay. So that is why you have a sub n is equals to 4 over n squared negative 1 over n. Bakit? Na-cancel out yung pi. Okay. So 4 times 4 over n squared negative 1 raised to n. So this one is your value of a sub n. So rewriting your answer, a sub 0 is equals to 2 pi squared over 3. Ito yung sagot natin sa taas kanina, this one. Okay. Then b sub n is 0 since this is an even function. And a sub n is equals to 4 over n squared negative 1 raised to n. So you now have, rewriting in this form, you get, okay, so you get pi squared over 3, a sub 0, 2 pi squared over 3, cancel yung 2, you get pi squared over 3, plus summation of your a sub n, 4 over n squared negative 1 raised to n, cosine of nx. So this one is our final answer. Okay, this one is our final answer for the Fourier series expansion of a parabolic wave f of x equals to x squared from negative pi to pi. Okay, so a Fourier series for functions with periodic 2L. Okay, so periodic 2L. So paano naman kung hindi siya 2 pi? So, hindi pi yung period niya. So, what if yung period niya is 2L whereas yung L is any number? So, this will be the general form, di ba? Mas general to. So, suppose that we have a periodic function f of t with an arbitrary period of t equals to 2L. So, generalizing the special case, whereas special case is p is equals to 2 pi. So, this is the more general form of the Fourier series. So this then a simple rescaling of the interval negative pi to negative L to L allows us to write down the general Fourier series and Fourier coefficient formulas. Okay, so this one is the general formula for the Fourier series. Okay, so balik tayo dun sa una, di ba? That is this one. Okay, balik tayo dun. Ito yung itsura kasi nung kapag 2 pi yung periodic function niya. Okay, so na yun? This one. A sub 0 over 2, summation of n cos 1 to positive infinity a sub n, cosine nx, b sub n, sine nx. Okay, this one is yung periodic, when periodic 2 pi. Okay, however, kapag periodic 2L, this one is the formula. So that is a sub 0 over 2 plus summation of a sub n cosine n pi t over L plus b sub n sine n pi t over L n equals to 1 to positive infinity. So this one is your Fourier series. Okay, so a sub 0 is equals to 1 over L. Your a sub 0 is equals to 1 over L. integral of f of t dt, negative L to L. Then a sub n is equals to 1 over L integral of negative L to L from negative L to L f of t cosine n pi t over L dt. And b sub n is equals to 1 over L integral of f of t sine n pi t over L dt from negative L to L. So as you can see, the same din to dun sa periodic 2 pi. Ang nangyari lang, yung L is naging pi. Okay, from L is naging pi. Okay, so ayan, yan lang yung Fourier series general formula. Okay, so let's try a sample problem 3. Okay, so okay pa ba kayo, class? May nakasunod pa ba? Sige, sige. Interrupt nila ako pag may question kayo. Okay, so marami pa naman tayong oras. Sige, for a sample problem 3, so let's try as let the function f of t be the period 2 function, so which is defined on the window. So period 2. So period 2 siya. So ibig sabihin that yung interval niya is from negative 1 to 1. Yan. So yan yung period niya. Okay? So going back dun sa formula, so solve lang natin to. A sub 0, A sub n, and B sub n. So you just need to solve for this coefficient. Okay. So gawin muna natin yung A sub n. Okay, solve muna natin si A sub n, this one. So A sub n is equals to 1 over L integral of integral of f of t cosine n pi t over L dt from negative L to L. Okay, so solve muna natin siya dito. So ano yung L natin? Yung L natin is, okay, so since ang period natin is equals to 2L, which is equivalent to 2, therefore your L is equals to 1. Okay, therefore, so 1 over 1 integral of negative 1 to 1. What is the function? Yung function natin is absolute value of t. Cosine of n pi t over L, which is 1. So n pi t dt. Okay, therefore, your A sub n is equals to 1. Okay, so integral of 0 to 1. Bakit naging 0 to 1? Kasi this is a pwede nating i-simplify yung this function kasi if we check for the area of this one and the area under the curve for this one, they are the same. So ito yung even function. So ito ay negative area, this is a positive area. If you did not use 0 to 1 this in this term, you will arrive to a 0 kasi kung ano yung sagot niya dito, this is a negative area, this one is a positive area. Okay, so mag-a-arrive ka as 0. So therefore, hatiin mo siya. So hatiin mo siya ng 0 to 1 t cosine n pi t dt. Then palitan mo yung boundary ng 0 to 1 kalahati times 2. Okay, so may times 2 sa labas. So therefore, applying integration by parts, this is Liate ulit. Okay, so algebraic and trigonometric. So algebra is t, trigonometric is cosine n pi t. Okay, so A sub n is equals to 2. Okay, t sine n pi t over n pi. Okay, so that is, hindi ko nasulat yung UDV. Okay, so sulat ko, that is yung U natin. Yung U natin is equals to t. Yung dV natin is equals to cosine n pi t. Ayan. So du natin is equals to dt. And yung B natin is equals to, dito ko ilagay yung dt. Okay, that is equivalent to sine n pi t over n. So that is sine n pi t over n pi. Sorry, this is over n pi. N in pi is constant. So that is sine n pi t over n pi. Okay. So solving for integration by parts, you get uv minus integral of v du. Okay. So you have 2, then uv, that is t. Yung v natin is sine n pi t over n pi. This one. Minus plus, okay, this one, plus cosine n pi t over n squared pi squared from 0 to 1. So, hindi ko nasulat. Bakit? This one. Hindi ko nasulat ito. So, dito na lang tayo sa isa. Okay, hindi ko. Okay, so i-write up ko lang siya dito para makita nyo. So, that is your u is equals, dito muna tayo sa una. So, that is integral of 0 to 1 t cosine n pi t dt. Okay, may 2 ka dito sa labas. Okay, yung u mo is t, du mo is equals to dt. Yung v mo is equals, dv mo is cosine n pi t. Yung v mo is equals to sine n pi t over n pi. Okay, so using integration by parts sa formula, that is integral uv minus integral of v du. Okay, so nasusunod pa ba, class? Buhay pa ba kayo dyan?
Yes po, sir.
Okay, so you have t, yung v natin, that is sine n pi t over n pi. Okay, minus the integral of v du. Ano ba yung v natin? That is sine n pi t over n pi. Ano yung du natin? Which is dt. Okay. So, evaluated to from 0 to 1. This one is from 0 to 1. Okay. So, balik tayo dito. This one is, okay, mamaya ko na siya evaluate. May 2 pa pala ako sa labas. Yan, may 2 pa ako sa labas. Ayan. Ayan. So, this one, integral of sine n pi t over n pi dt. So, we are just integrating with respect to t. So, therefore, n and pi are constant. So, we can ilagay natin siya sa labas. We can remove that before the integral sign. So, 2, okay, t sine n pi t over n pi evaluated from 0 to 1 minus 1 over n pi, okay, integral of 0 to 1 sine of n pi t dt. Okay, ano ba yung integral of sine n pi t? Diba ang integral ng sine x is negative cosine x over x. Kapag may value siya ng may value yung x mo, divide mo dun sa constant term. Okay, that is equivalent to 2t sine of your n pi t over n pi evaluated from 0 to 1 minus 1 over n pi. So that is equivalent to negative cosine n pi t over n pi. So kapag nalilito kayo, take mo lang yung derivative. So ano ba yung derivative ng cosine, negative cosine n pi t over n pi? That is positive sine n pi t over n pi. So cancel n pi. Okay? So n pi cosine n pi sine n pi t over n pi, cancel n pi na bumalik ka dito sa sine n pi t. Okay? So that is this one evaluated from 0 to 1. Okay? So that is why ito naging 2. Okay? So evaluate na natin to. So yung 0 kapag pinasok mo dun sa t, so give you sine 0 always. So 0 always in the numerator. So kapag sinubstitute natin yung 0, always 0. So that's why 1 na lang yung evaluate natin. So that is why sine of n pi over n pi na lang yung natira. Tama? Okay? Minus 1 over n pi. Okay, ano ba yung negative cosine n pi t over n pi? Substitute natin yung 1 dito sa t. Okay, if you substitute 1 sa t, that is negative cosine n pi over n pi. Okay, that is negative cosine n pi over n pi. Then minus yung negative cosine 0, yung minus yung negative cosine 0, n pi times 0 is 0. Okay, this one negative cosine of 0 over n pi. Okay? Ayan. So, this one, ano ba yung sin n pi? 'Di ba ang sin n pi always give you 0, 'di ba? Sin n pi okay. Whereas sin n pi is always 0. Okay, cosine n pi is equals to negative 1 raised to n. Okay? And cosine 0 is always 1. Okay? So, sauluhin nyo yan. So, ganun na gagawin ko dito. This one will be 0. Okay? This one will be negative of negative 1 raised to n. Or pwedeng gawin ko dito, ilabas ko na yung negative 1 dito. So, 1 over n pi na lang siya. Okay? So, that is why sulat ko siya dito. So that is why this one is 2 over sige, labas. Mamaya ko na lang ilabas. So ito magiging 1 over n pi. Okay. Then cosine n pi will give me negative 1 raised to n over n pi minus yung cosine 0 will always give me negative 1. Negative cosine 0 always give me negative 1 over n pi. Okay? Yan. Yan. So, if we cancel out negative sign sa dito sa loob, factor out negative 1. So, mangyayari, this one is factor out natin yung n pi. So, you have 2n squared pi squared. Okay? Then, negative 1 raised to n. Okay? This one is negative positive 1 plus 1. Okay, nakalimutan ko ata yung negative 1. Wait lang Negative cosine n pi t. Negative 1 also magiging positive n pi. Okay. So magiging ano na nga to? Magiging positive na to. Kasi nilabas ko yung negative dito. should be positive cosine n pi. This one should be negative pa rin. So this one positive times negative, so negative pa rin nga. So this one should be negative. One should be negative 1. Okay, this should be negative 1. Kasi dito, if we substitute negative 1 over n pi, substitute mo siya doon, magiging positive cosine n pi over n squared pi squared. This one, kapag pinasok mo doon, that is positive cosine 0 over n squared pi squared. So positive cosine 0 is 1. Negative cosine 0 over n squared pi squared. That is negative 1 n squared pi squared. And mas maganda siguro if isulat ko na lang this one. So hindi ko na lang siya ilalabas. Okay. So that is 2. Okay. So pasok ko yon, that is cosine n pi over n squared pi squared. Okay, this one positive times negative magiging negative cosine 0 over n squared pi squared. Okay, that is why ganyan. 2 over n squared pi squared, cosine n pi is negative 1 raised to n, cosine 0 is positive 1. Okay, so this will be our answer. Yan. However, if your value of pwede na to, pwede na ganito yung answer, or pwede ihiwalay natin siya. Kapag value of n is odd, so ano ba yung mga odd number? 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So kapag 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, ang value of negative 1 raised to n is negative 1, di ba? Negative 1 raised to 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 raised to 3, negative 1. Negative 1 raised to 5 is negative 1. So that is why negative 1 minus negative 1 is negative 2 times 2. That is negative 4 over n squared pi squared. For n, that is odd. And for n that is even, magiging positive 1 to. So positive 1 minus 1 is 0. That will give you 0 for n that is even. Okay? So that is your a sub n. So since this function is an even, so the coefficient b sub n is equals to 0. So 'di ba yung absolute value of t is nandito siya sa example natin, that is an even function, this one. Absolute value of x, that is an even function. Okay. So that is why your this one yan. That is why your b sub n is equivalent to 0. Okay? Therefore, okay ka na sa a sub n. Next mo is yung a sub 0. What is your a sub 0? The formula for a sub 0 is 1 over L integral of f of t dt from negative L to L. Okay? So, balik tayo dito. Okay, this one. Okay. So, for solving for a sub 0, so a sub 0 is 1 over L integral of L over f of t dt from negative L to L. So a sub 0 is 1 over 1, which our L is equals to 1, negative 1 to 1, absolute value of t dt. Whereas, pwede natin siyang i-write as 2 integral of 2 times 2 integral of 0 to 1 t dt. So kunwari hindi ka mag-come up doon, hindi mo siya ginawang 2, mag-come up ka rin sa answer. So t squared over 2, di ba? Evaluated from 0 from negative 1 to 1. So t squared over 2 plus t squared over 2, that is 2 times t squared over 2. Okay? So that is why you have this. Okay, so therefore your a sub 1 is equals to 1. Okay? Kasi nga this one is squared over 2 minus negative 1 squared over 2. You have 1 squared over 2 plus 1 squared over 2. You have 1/2. Okay, so 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1. Okay, that is why your a sub 0 is equals to 1. So going back to your original formula for the Fourier series or general formula for the Fourier series, you have your a sub 0, you have your a sub n, you have your b sub n. Whereas your b sub n is equals to 0, that because your function is an even function. Okay, an even function. So therefore, your function is 1/2. Your Fourier series expansion or series is 1/2 minus 4 pi squared. Okay, this one, 4 pi squared for cosine n pi t, okay, over n squared. Ayan. Cosine n pi t over n squared. Okay, this one. So sinubstitute na lang yung value of your b sub n, whereas yung n mo is always add. Okay? So pwedeng ito yung pagsulat mo, pwede ring ito yung pagsulat mo. Nilagay mo lang na n is equals to 1 to infinity. So pwedeng dalawa. Pwedeng ganitong way or pwedeng ito. Okay, then for your Fourier series expansion is given by this one. So 1/2 minus 4 pi squared cosine pi t plus cosine 3 pi over 2, 3 pi t over 3 squared plus cosine pi t over 5 squared plus so on and so forth. So mapapansin mo, since this is odd, this is n equals to 1, n is equals to 1, n equals to 3, and n equals to 5. Okay, so do you have questions for the Fourier series? Okay, sige. So this will be our last meeting for the reference. We have your this one for Fourier series by Engineer Von Eric Parantes. Okay, so if you don't have questions for this topic, so this will be our last meeting for the numerical solution lecture. Okay, so magmi-meeting pa tayo for the numerical solutions sa lab. Okay, sa lab natin ay mamaya, and module 13 mamaya, and module 18 on December, module 14 on December 8. Okay, so for December 8, ang mangyayari kasi mag-quiz 6 kayo sa December 8, and magle-lecture ako, mag-activity 6 kayo, then magle-lecture ako ng module 14. So magle-lecture muna ako ng module 14, then you will take your activity 6. So ganun yung mangyayari natin. Okay, so is that clear ba? May question ba kayo about your schedule, our schedule for finals? So 2 weeks na lang kasi we only have 2 weeks. Okay, sige. That's it, class. So mamaya, water break lang tayo. So stop ko muna yung recording, then proceed tayo sa lecture. So balik tayo ng 11:45. Okay ba 'yon?
Sige po, sir.
Okay, so sige. Okay, so for this module in Matlab, okay, or numerical solutions in Matlab, okay, we will solve on the plot a partial sum in Matlab. Okay, so given your series, okay, given yung series mo, let's say a power series man yan, or a Taylor series man yan, or Maclaurin series, or a Fourier series, you can implement a partial sum in Matlab. Okay, you can implement a partial sum in Matlab. So for the infinite series, let's say we have an infinite series of a sub k from k equals to 1 to positive infinity. So that is an infinite series. So we define the nth partial sum as S sub n is equals to summation of your k equals of your a sub k from k equals to 1 to n. We say that the infinite series converges as S if the limit of your S sub n from as n approaches to infinity is approaching to value s. So, 'di ba ganun nga, kapag converging ka, kahit man lumaki yung value of n mo, you will always arrive to exactly the same answer, s. Okay? So hindi siya pabago-bago, hindi siya diverging. So that is why we can check if the infinite series is converging or diverging using these partial sums in Matlab. Okay, so let's try an example for the series of 1 over k raised to 3 halves from k is equals to 1 to n. Okay, so expanding our term, we have 1 over 1 raised to 3 halves. Okay, that is 1 plus k equals to 2, that is 1 over 2 raised to 3 halves. K equals to 3, that is 1 over 3 raised to 3 halves, and so on, and so on, and so forth. Okay, so compute the partial sums of S sub 10, S sub 10,000, S sub 1 million, and S sub 10 million. Okay, and make a conjecture as to whether or not the series converges, and if it converges, what is the converges to? So we can solve this with the following Matlab code. Okay, so the following Matlab code is this one, taking the sum. Okay, so ang mangyayari, maggagawa lang tayo ng matrix, or parang ano to element k. Okay, kapag nilagay kasi natin to, this one, this will give you a value of k that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 elements of k. Then you use sum of your 1k, 1 over k raised to 3 halves, or your a sub k, will give you the partial sum. Okay, take note, this is element wise, so we need to introduce yung dot. Pag nag-element wise tayo, yan o, may dot. Okay, so let's try. I-try natin. So first, try muna natin yung partial sum S sub 10. Okay, so open natin side by side with Matlab. This one. Okay. So we are doing a partial sum of 1 over k raised to 3 halves of n equals to 10. Okay. So let's say n equals to 10. So yung k natin will be from 1 to 10. So siya makita, ito, columns 1 to 10. So ibig sabihin, gumawa si Matlab ng value of k. Okay, gumawa si Matlab ng value of k na 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? So yan yung ginawang value ni Matlab. Okay? So taking the syntax sum, this one, yung sum, S is equals to sum. So using element wise, so maglalagay tayo ng dot. So S is equals to the sum, then 1 over k raised to 3 halves. So k dot, okay? Then k dot raised to 3 halves. Okay, so our value of S is 1.9953. So that is your partial sum for the summation of 1 over k raised to 3 halves up to k is equals to 10. Okay, so going back to the Matlab code for 10,000. So partial sum for 10,000 terms. Okay, so we will create a value of k that is 1 to 10,000. So 1 to 10,000. Okay, then take the partial sum. This one, you get 2.5924. Okay. Next natin is taking the partial sum up to 1 million. So next, first things first, we need to create a column from 1 to 1 million. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1 million. Then taking the partial sum, you get 2.614. Then taking the partial sum for 10 million, you get, okay, dagdag tayo ng isang 0. Then taking the partial sum, you get 2.6117. Okay, so as you can see, S sub 10, 1.9953. S sub 10,000, 2.5924. S sub 10 million, 2.6104. 10 million, 2.6117. So mapapansin mo, nag-a-approach siya sa 2.61 something, di ba? So therefore, we can make a conjecture that this series is converging, di ba? We can make a conjecture that this series is converging to a value of 2.611 something or 2.661 something. Okay. So another example for a harmonic series of 1 over k. So taking the partial sum of 1 over k from k equals to 1 to infinity. So substitute natin yung ano ba yung expansion. So ang expansion natin dyan is 1 over 1, 1 over 2, 1 over 3, 1 over 4 hanggang 1 over infinity. Okay. So we can check, we can make a conjecture by this one if this is converging or diverging. So kunwari hindi nyo pa ito nakikita. Okay. So try muna natin. So clear. Okay. Sige. So unahin natin, mag-create muna tayo ng value of k column ng 1 to 10. So k is equals to 1 to 10. Then we will create a partial sum for 1 to k. So 1 over k. So partial sum is sum of 1 dot, okay, element wise. Bago ka maglagay ng operator, kailangan mo maglagay ng period. Okay, then k. Then you get 2.920. So taking the partial sum of 10,000 terms. So 1, 2, 3. Then taking the partial sum, you get 9.7876. Taking the partial sum for 1 million. Okay, for 1 million, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then taking the partial sum, you get 14.3927. And taking the partial sum for 10 million, you get 16.6953. Okay, so if we check the first 10th term, you have this one. Sulat ko lang dito. You have 2.920. Next one is 9.7876. Next one is 14.392. Nagloloko na yung sa ilalim ko. 7, okay? And next is 16.6953. Okay? So if we compare the partial sum 2.9, 9, 14, 16, so hindi siya nag-a-arrive sa value. So therefore, we can say that we can make a conjecture that this series or harmonic series is diverges. Okay? So hindi siya nagka-come up sa sa specific value. So hindi na siya may mga talon pa rin siya, di ba? So this one is diverges. Okay? Sige. So taking the partial sum of a series using for loop, okay, you can also do a partial sum of a series using a for loop. So I've written an implementation for taking the partial sum using the for loop. So ito, I think you can make this one. So para lang din tong nag-create ng trapezoidal method for solving the area under the curve. Kasi nga this one is dito nag-create ka ng initial sum, then create a value, then substitute, then take the partial sum. So ganun din. Para ka lang talaga nag-integration. So I think ay nag-written ako ng formula code dito. Solving mo. Ayan. Partial sum using the for loop. Okay, so yan. So gawa mo, intindihin muna natin paano to ginawa. So palakin ko lang dito. So you will declare n number of series to be partial sum. So you will create and input n equals to, let's say, 10,000. This one, n equals to 10,000. Then you will define the series or your series. So let's say you have your series na 1 over k raised to 3 halves. This one. So you get, pwede mong gawin is this one. Y at, pwede mong gawin tong k. So 1 at k, 1 over k raised to 3 halves. So pwede yon, or pwedeng 1, y at k, x, 1 over x raised to 3 halves. So doesn't matter kung anong variable yung gamitin mo. Then you want to take your initial sum. So ito yung initial sum mo. Initial sum mo, syempre, s equals to 0. Then you will implement your for loop implementation, di ba? Ang nangyari kasi dito, ang nangyayari talaga sa partial sum, you will input k, value of k na 1, next value of your k na 2, next value of your k na 3, so on and so forth, then ipapag-add mo. So para din talaga siya nagtatrap na tawag dito trapezoidal or yung area under the curve or using yung trapezoidal na ginawa natin. Okay? So this is 1 for k is equals to 1 to n, s is equals to s plus initial sum plus y of k. So yung first loop, magkakaroon ka ng value of s na 0, then magkakaroon ka ng mag-i-add ka ng y of your 1 para dito. Next loop, syempre may value na yung s mo. Na third loop, may value ng s mo, madadagdagan siya. Fourth loop, may value s mo, dadagdagan siya, so on and so forth. Then you will display your s, then you have your partial sum. So ganun lang. So we can also use the loop, for loop in the doing partial sum of the series of our example problem 1. Okay? So this one. So ito yung code natin. So side by side, yan, this one. So ito yung code natin, CLC, clear n equals to 10. Let's say declare n number of series for to be partial sum. Okay, then for loop implementation for k from 1 to n, s plus y of k. Then n display of s. Okay, so gawin muna natin yung code for the partial sum up to 10 terms. So n is equals to 10. Okay, then control shift enter. You have 1.9953. So which is exactly the same using this one. Yan, 1.9953. Okay? So taking the partial sum for, again, for 10,000, 1 million, and 10 million. So let's say 10,000, 1, 2, 3, you get 2.5924. For 1 million, you get, kulang ako sa 2.6104. Okay, and for 10 million you get for 10 million you get partial sum na 1 million to this one 2.6117, which is exactly the same dito. 2.6117, 2.6104, and 2.5924. Okay, so that is using the for loop in partial sum. So you can either solve using this one, yung taking the syntax sum, then element wise yung pagsosolve, or pwedeng gamamit ka ng for loop. Pwede rin yan kung gusto mo na medyo may for loop ka na dating. So input mo lang yung n, input mo lang yung function, so meron ka ng for loop implementation. Okay, so we can also plot the partial sum of a series in a Matlab. So paano ba gagamitin yung plotting na yan? Yan, this one. So to plot your partial sum of a series in Matlab, I've written an implementation or a code to plot the Matlab implementation for the series. Okay, so for the partial sum of the series. So let's say this one. Okay, ito yung partial sum natin, no, kanina hanggang dito. So this one. So kung gusto ko siyang i-plot, ipo-plot ko yung partial sum at n equals to 1, this one. Ipo-plot ko yung partial sum at n equals to 1 and n equals to 2. Okay, ito yung mga sum nila eh. Kung mapapansin mo, yung n equals to 10 dito, that is exactly, ano ba yung n equals to 10 natin? 1.9953. So, nandito yung plot. So, pinaplot niya yung sum. Depende kung ano yung value of n mo. Ito yung value of n. This one is your partial sum. Okay. So, ang gagawin ko lang, you will create a storing for the partial sum, this one. So, ito yung storing for partial 1 for the partial sum. Let's say, you have your partial sum for, let's say, n is equals to 1, first loop. Yung first loop natin, nag-create siya ng sum of k. Ano yung sum of k? So, sum of 1, ito yung sum of the first term. Kapag first term lang, n is equals to 1, you will store that. In-store niya. Next, kapag solve for 2, sum of 2. Okay, in-store niya again yung value of s. Okay, if you sum that 3, i-store niya ulit yung value. Sum 4 hanggang value of n. So, ini-store niya yung value. Okay, ini-store niya yung value dito. Then, itong implementation na pause 0.5 is to pause lang yung pagpa-plot ng 0.5 seconds. So, maganda yan. Tingnan nyo. So, plotting partial sum. Okay, this one. So, ito yung implementation for 1 over k raised to 3 halves pa din. Okay, so take natin yung partial sum. Sige, control, shift, enter. This one. So kapag n is n equals to 10, okay, napapansin nyo, may 0.5 seconds delay siya sa pagpa-plot. Ayan, natapos niya na yung plotting. Okay? So that is why medyo maganda lang siya tingnan dahil may animation, di ba? So may 0.5 seconds delay. So ito yung mga partial sum. So ito, this one is yung n equals to 1, n is equals to 2, n equals to 3, 4, okay? Ito yung n is equals to 10, which is 1.99543. So dito natin makikita if the value is converging kapag pumupunta siya sa horizontal line. Pag nag-horizontal line, so pwede nating tingnan. So check natin if increase natin yung value for the partial sum. Let's say we try n is equals to 10,000. Yun yung next, di ba? 10,000. Oops. Okay, so 10,000, delay na 0.5 seconds. So meron tayong maghihintay tayo ng matagal. So tanggalin ko yung pause. Tanggalin ko yung pause para mabilis. Kasi 10,000 plots yun eh. 10,000 times 0.5 seconds is 500 seconds. So we will wait for 500 seconds. So ganito na lang. Okay, hindi nag-plot. Hindi nag-plot or nag-plot? Nagra-run pa. I think medyo matagal. Yan. So this one. So mapapansin nyo class, nakikita nyo ba yung plot? Class, hello? Ayan o. Kung makikita nyo yung plot, is papunta siya sa horizontal line. So therefore, we can say that 1 over k raised to 3 halves is converging dun sa value of this one. Okay, nagpo-flatten yung curve. Pag nagpo-flatten yung curve is converging siya sa value. So let's say i-try natin yung isa na diverging. Yung diverging na isa yung harmonic series natin na 1 over k. So 1 over k, so 10. So 10 muna tayo. So plot, you have this one. Okay. So next natin is n equals to 100. Okay. This one. Okay. So parabolic curve pa rin siya. So n equals to 1,000. Okay. This one. Hindi pa rin siya nagpo-flatten. So n is equals to 10,000. Okay. This one, yan. Kung ito, hindi pa rin siya nagpa-flatten, no? Medyo parabolic pa rin talaga siya. So we can say that the value of the summation of 1 over k is diverging. Okay? So, ayan. So nakuha nyo na po. Nakuha nyo ba, class?
Yes po, sir.
Okay. So yung tanggalin nyo lang yung pause na 0.5 seconds para medyo mas mabilis. So yung pause 0.5 seconds then is nilagay ko lang for animation purposes. Okay, so maganda kasi yung tingnan if let's say try natin this one. 100. Ayan. Okay. So meron siyang 0.5 seconds delay sa pagpo-plot. Nasa 35 pa lang tayo. Okay, so 50 seconds. 'Di ba may animation? Parang may animation yung pagpo-plot mo. Okay, so that's it. So that is plotting partial sum and solving partial sum of a series or an infinite series in Matlab. Okay, so that's all for today, class.